Very good. Excellent. So Joe Castello, you are in charge.
Thank you very much, Francis, Christiana. Welcome, Jessica. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here on ePart Trade Industry Week. This Friday, everybody is having a good time. We're coming down the stretch in what has been just an amazing week of learning about our industry. But now you guys are going to educate us on something that I think we all understand is vital to the future of motorsport, at very least understanding the importance. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your company and the organization and the involvement with motorsports?
Jess, do you want to start or should I start?
I don't mind starting. So I'm the head of sustainability at Motorsport UK. We're the governing body in the UK for all four-wheeled sports. So we permit and importantly ensure any four-wheeled event in the UK and across 13 disciplines. So our kind of stakeholders are from the Formula One Grand Prix down to people doing motorsport for leisure in the car park somewhere. So it's an incredibly broad spectrum. And I work on sustainability from both the environmental perspective, but also around inclusion. So making sure that we're a diverse and inclusive sport as well.
And that's why, Joe, I wanted Jessica to start. I think it's like it's a top to what Motorsport UK is doing here in the UK, especially with sustainability. So I'm Christiana Pace. I'm the CEO and founder of Innovation Consulting. That is a company based in the UK but working worldwide that help stakeholder circuit teams, championship and ASN to embed sustainability in their strategy and to actually do the changes within the organization. Sustainability, as just said, not just environment, but also social and also governance changes.
And Jessica, just so I understand, you actually work for the government?
For the governing body.
Okay, I understand the governing body, and which is, but that's significant, and I think that this is an area I can tell you a lot of people in the States are concerned about. Regulation, over-regulation, what's going to happen in the future. So I think this could be very illuminating to many people here. So talk a little bit about the organization and the relevance of sustainability in motorsport.
Sure, I mean it's hugely relevant, and both from a push and pull factors. Like, people don't see motorsport as being an incredibly sustainable sport. The spotlight is on us and people are making regulations. We are every day I have a conversation with a landowner who wants to know what we're doing on sustainability to permit us to race on their land, to the FAA who have an accreditation program in order to be an accredited championship. From today I was talking to a young driver whose sponsorship has been pulled because they don't want to sponsor a motor racer anymore. So in terms of relevancy, it's incredibly important. But also, I don't think we're just wanting to do things because we have to. Actually, it's yes, doing everything we need to do, but we also see the opportunity as an industry and as a sport where we can provide solutions. We can look at things like sustainable fuels. We can look at better way of doing things to actually contribute to solving climate issues, rather than just being seen as the bad people burning a lot of fuel.
Christiana?
Yeah, well, we work with Motorsport UK as well, and I have to thank Jessica because they've been doing a lot of things, and we are trying to help teams and championship and also supplier to understand why they need sustainability, and as just said, this is not just you need it for compliance because there are regulations, because there are reports, because you have to get the accreditation because there are rules around that, but you also need it because is really what the market around us and what other market, like the financial market, you need it for a loan because the bank will ask you for your ESG credential. You need for a lot of other reasons. So the reason why we need sustainability in motorsport is we, as just said, we are in the spotlights. People think we are not sustainable, and lots of sponsorship are pulling out from these this sport, but actually we are solution provider. We can enhance technology. We have done it before. We have created a lot of new technology that then spill over. We got the power as well to inspire peoples and fans. So and also it's like we need to comply with regulation as well government regulation.
And Christiana, you're the founder and CEO. So I would just love to know, before we dig any deeper, because this is, I think, a subject that is on the mind of everybody, whether they're for or against, ready to embrace or fighting it. What was your motivation to start this? Like, what made you decide that this was an area that you wanted to tackle? Because it's certainly a great challenge.
So I'm an engineer by background, and I'm a proper motorsport petrol-head engineer. And I started engineering cars and GT cars back in 2002, 2003. And then I went into Formula One. I was in the FIA technical department for about 10 years, trying to improve safety in motorsport. And we came out with the Halo. We came out with loads of really important innovation that made motorsport more safe. And since back in 2008, we were discussing what was the next big challenge of motorsport. And I remember that someone, the president at that time, said, actually, it's not safety because we are in the right path. We will solve that problem. Is sustainability, because we're not sustainable. It's not a sustainable business model. We're not being seen sustainable in terms of diversity and inclusion and in terms of innovation and technology. So the next big challenge is sustainability. And I remember that I was quite young then. I didn't really got it straight away. And it took me possibly 10 years before really sink with me that every other thing was easy really in motorsport, but embedding sustainability in motorsport was the biggest next challenge. And I wanted to get involved. I'm a bit of I love engineering and I love solving problems. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in motorsport. So I went back to university, did a PhD on sustainability and strategy management, and come back and founding my own company and work with different customers in motorsport, from F1 to grassroots, to actually trying to explain what then is sustainability and trying to embed sustainability within their organization.
No, thank you for that. Thank you for your investment. It is vital and it's important. And Jessica said it in one line, which, sometimes we would shy away from it, but that's sometimes the unfortunate takeaway by the uneducated about motorsport, that we're the bad people burning fuels over here. And they don't necessarily understand or give credit to the, thousands of great things that come out of motorsports, whether it be, the passion of learning about STEM or engineering solutions or advancing technology forward. All of these things that are great that come out of motorsport, they don't really acknowledge or realize that they even exist if they're not educated about it. So thank you for doing this. What have been some of the highlights so far? Some of the people that you've reached out to and some of the highlights of your venture?
So we work with about 50% of the Formula One pit lane. So I think that is the lights. It's like I used to work with them as the bad one that used to do check on their ECU and cars to see if they were complying with F1 rules. Now I'm actually trying to teach them how to go about sustainability. And they've got some tough regulation that they have to they're constrained on as well on sustainability. I don't know if anybody know that by the sporting regulation, all the Formula One team need to have a 3-star environmental accreditation from the FIA by this year. So they've been all trying to become more sustainable in the last couple of years. So that I think that is a really good highlight, especially how the industry is changing, and they rely on people that are from the industry, and they can actually teach them what's the next new things and how they can go about that. We work with circuit. Unfortunately, Stefan from Silverstone Circuit couldn't be with us, but they are one of our clients as well. They've done a fantastic job this year at the British Grand Prix on sustainability. We have worked with Motorsport UK for grassroots, but especially for the sustainability of their smallest circuit in the UK. So like not the one that have got tons of money, but the one that need it the most and the one where lots of funds going. We've been working as well with football teams. You think I thought it was a very strange, but actually football teams have got the same problems that every other teams have got. They travel a lot, they've got infrastructure, and they need to be sustainable. So this is a sport-wide movement, the sustainability movement that need to be sorted. And I think we have got the prime position in motorsport to actually also be very mindful about the technology to use and find lots of solutions that other sports cannot find. And this is what we see at the moment.
Jessica?
I think there's two key highlights. So in terms of environmental, I think when I started, I'm already seeing a difference in people coming to us from the community, asking what they should be doing, asking what they should be aware of, people understanding that this is something that we can help with and being able to signpost them, and then watching them kind of learn on their own and change. We're also doing a huge project to understand the emissions that motorsport creates in the UK. So actually look at the 500 odd events we have every year and understand where are the emissions coming from. Let's use a data-based approach to stop perceptions, to stop guessing. Where are these emissions coming from? And then that's when we know what to work on. That's how we communicate, be really honest and be like, this is where it's coming from. This is where we're going to focus. So it's really good. I mean, the highlight is getting that information, having some concrete baseline information from where to start from, and doing it in a scientific way that we can back up and we can prove. The other one is earlier this year, we were one of the inaugural partners of the Ignite Foundation, which is a joint initiative between Mercedes F1, Lewis Hamilton and his organisation Mission 44, to grow our kind of £250,000 to grow our Women in Motorsport programme, Girls on Track UK, and also to invest in understanding how other underrepresented groups in motorsport might get into STEM careers. So that's also really exciting, being able to scale up some of the more charitable initiatives that we run.
Excellent. And so since you said it, like, people want to know what are some of the things we should be doing and what are some of the things that we should be working on. Can you cite a couple of examples to make it a little more real to our viewers out there as they think about their own series, wherever they are, their own racing operations or businesses, so that we may hear and perhaps apply some of your concepts?
Absolutely, and it's really discipline specific. So one of the things that we're wrapping up this program, so I don't have the exact amount, but actually, if you look at motorsport as a sport, it's not very different to other sports. The emissions come from spectator travel, from volunteers coming to and from events, from moving stuff around, so the freight. This is the key areas that we're seeing create the most emissions. Everyone's focus is what's going on the track. Actually, the data says it's what's going on off the track that is creating the most emissions, which is the same problems that any live events, big events, sporting events have. And that's then the opportunity to collaborate with wider bodies, wider sports, even the wider event and entertainment industry to understand what they're doing.
So doing a burnout after winning a race is not hurting us.
It's not looking good.
It's not the biggest impact, just put in this way.
Just wanted to know.
That's sometimes that's what draws the people's attention. If people ask me questions like why does that happen, I think it's being very mindful of activities and how that's perceived by someone that is from an entirely different audience, like you say, that might have no idea what's actually happening. It's the perception.
And isn't that who we're really talking to in this situation, though? People who are totally uninitiated. Christiana talked about her passion as an engineer and for engineering and working in this world that most people have no idea that how it works inside that world. So we do have to speak to people who don't understand us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think it's like one of the good things that has come out from this piece of research is mainly like the fact that it's not the car the problem, is the people that come to the events. And as just said, and that is exactly the same problem that a concert has got. They don't have a car in the concert, but they got exactly the same amount of people or even more going all to see the events. And same things as a football match. Exactly the same problem. So it's kind of like is a sport-wide problem rather than a motorsport specific problem. And I just wanted to also flag out a couple of real life example that I think America is doing well on sustainability. Just please feel free to kit in as well, because you know them as well. So there is a really lovely initiative from NASCAR called the NASCAR Foundation. They're doing an amazing work with kids and with diversity as well. So also like in US, obviously, this idea of sustainability, not just as environment, but also as diversity and inclusion, and also as charity and giving back to the community, is something that the NASCAR Foundation really encompass, and they've done some amazing work all over US as well. And then, for example, in terms of infrastructure sustainability, you got Indianapolis. Indianapolis is the first circuit really in the US to have got some kind of accreditation for their environmental and also CSR performance. So I think it's like this awareness of sustainability is starting to also going I would say on the other side of the ocean and coming to you as well. And it's just because we don't lots of people don't know about sustainability, that they don't go and see these kind of things, but there is quite a lot of sustainability embedded in already on some of the operation circuit operator and championship that you have got in the US.
When you talk about sustainability, this is a word that we have spoken now many times, but I think when people hear that, they think we're speaking about conservation, but you're talking about continuing the sport, continuing our hobby, continuing our passion into the future. Am I correct about that?
So I think when you talk about sustainability, yeah, I agree with you. In US, it's very much conservation and preservation. So it's very much environment. When we talk about sustainability, we have got a view of what we call ESG framework: environmental, social, and governance. So yes, it's conservation and preservation, but it's also our community, our youth, and like a grassroots and inclusion and diversity, but it's also governance. So the wider piece about policy, legislation, reporting, and things like that. So it's the all, and you need the all umbrella really to preserve the sport and to make sure that the sport is seen sustainable, and therefore the sponsor don't migrate to other sports that I think are more sustainable, but they got exactly the same problem of motorsport.
Well, and exactly. So how do you determine that or ensure that these sustainability needs are met? Like you can set a benchmark, but then how do you follow through and make sure that these goals are achieved?
One of the things,
yeah, you go, Jess, sorry.
One of the things we're currently doing is, as we, like we said earlier, we have 600 odd stakeholders that we need to work with. So we are providing them with the tools they would need, such as a carbon calculator so they can calculate their own emissions, such as training, such as resources to put up on events so that they can showcase their kind of commitment to it. We're providing them with those tools and with a very clear expectation of what they should be doing. So it's not scary or difficult, or you're kind of stabbing in the dark. And at the moment they're voluntary. You can do them as and when you wish. We've had a great uptake in some of them, and we're not planning to make them mandatory, but they're there if people need them. And I think that's often the hardest thing, is people don't necessarily sometimes know where to start. People worry about getting it wrong. People worry that there's like lots of competing points. It's an industry. Sustainability has lots of people that want you to listen to them. So it's being really clear about what our expectations are, and then giving people the tools to meet those expectations rather than making it complicated and time consuming.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we have done as a company, like when we go into other company to talk to see their sustainability status, is not just preaching, it's assessing what they've already got and they would already have done. And we always find really some nice example of their corporate social responsibility, for example, something that they would have done with school and things like that. But on the other side, one of the things that we started to do about a couple of years ago is actually benchmarking venue and benchmarking championship on sustainability indicator. And that is something that we collect the data, and the UCL in London, that is a university that is very well known for corporate responsibility, normally assess. So we normally come out twice a year with an index where we rank international championship and international circuit. Not anybody that, not local, just international. And the idea was to try to encourage everybody to be more sustainable. Obviously, the first times that we published it didn't go that very well down to some people because they thought that they were judged. But we don't judge, we just give them the instrument to understand what they could improve. And then there is like the ASN, like the Motorsport authority for each nation, like for example Motorsport UK, that gives that the tools as well to do better. So it's a bit of a process, I think.
So what about your partners and your vendors and suppliers and all of these people? Like a circuit can choose to adopt a certain set of benchmarks to achieve sustainability, but if their suppliers and their partners don't, then there's a challenge. So what is the best way to get everybody on the same page with this?
So I think the supplier will need to adapt. If they want to bid for anything with the FIA, they will have to have an environmental accreditation that the FIA does. So and that is what happened, for example, for the last tender for Formula E parts, like the battery, the chassis, and the tires. And that's what will happen more and more often for international championship tender. The other thing, supplier will be asked as well from who they supply, like especially if they supply automotive. For example, I know that Ford and Toyota already asked their supplier to fill a form about how sustainable they are. If you want to bid for anything with BA system or Boeing or Airbus, you have to have your ISO 14001 credential as a supplier. So the industry-wide is demanding that from the supplier. Motorsport is a bit behind with supplier and is giving them enough time to adapt, I would say. The tools that the supplier need to use and the calculation of carbon footprint, like for example, what just mentioned before, are exactly the same tool that circuit and any other stakeholder need to be used. The good things about sustainability, the tools, good tools are exactly the same for everybody. So it's not that we are inventing the wheel because the people are just suppliers. I think it's a bit of a slower process for supplier because Motorsport has got lots of small suppliers. Normally they are only 10 people or one-man band, or but will happen. They will have to conform, especially if they grow and they want to supply as well the automotive industry.
Jessica.
Yeah, and I think if some of the bigger suppliers, if they are large corporates, they'll be ahead of some of the motorsport bodies on this because their other clients will be asking. So they should have an answer. And I am really encouraging people when they choose their suppliers to just put in one question at the very least. I mean, you can get, depending on your spend, you should be kind of different layers of ambitious, but just one question is, how are you going to support us to meet your net zero goals? And allow them to do the talking and then get someone that knows what they're talking about to read that answer and see if it makes sense. They might actually have some amazing opportunities because they're already doing things themselves that you can learn off. As Christiana says, what I'm really looking at is some of those smaller suppliers that only deal with motorsport, things like karting tires, quite niche, don't necessarily supply lots of other people. And instead of expecting them to already have done things, we know they haven't. So actually what are the conversations we can have? Again, be very clear with our expectations, say, how can we help? Again, we're all on this together, so it's working with them to understand how they can make a big difference, but starting at what is most material to them. So again, what is the most important? What is the biggest thing, the one thing they can do that will have the biggest impact, rather than trying to ask everyone to do absolutely everything? Focus on the important things first.
Is there anything that we haven't discussed just yet? We're getting short on time. Please give an action step for people to contact you, to get involved if they have any questions. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. This is a tough subject in our motorsport world, but I think it's one that we should have, and we need to have, and you guys are tackling it, maybe even swimming upstream. But give a final thought and your contact info for people to find out more.
From my side, I think someone mentioned before financial sustainability. So it's kind of like, it's more like how much this is going to cost. So I just wanted to say that there are lots of tools already developed, and there is the National Motorsport Association, the ASN, that develop tools for people to use. So this is not going to break the banks, to be honest. And it's something that will be required more and more. So it's easier to come on board now rather than in 5 years' time, than that when you have to rush and do exactly what people need to do. So on my side, it's like I'm sure there is a link somewhere, and there is our website and all contact information there. So feel free to send us an email if you want to find out a bit more, or if you want to discuss anything. We very much open for a discussion. Also, sometimes just to talk and understand what is the barriers and what we need to take into account when we talk to people, and what I think that could be a problems to develop, why, and things like that.
Sure. For me, you can find me on LinkedIn. The Jessica Chronicles is a very unusual name, so it's very easy to spot me. And I think the last thing I will say is, because I saw a comment on sustainable fuels, which is a key work stream for us. When I asked the price of sustainable fuels for some of our championships at the beginning of this year, they were much higher compared to fossil fuel than they are when you ask again. I've just been having conversations. The prices are much more on a parity level, not quite the same, but we're pushing forward with innovation. These things are moving incredibly quickly. The demand is going up for things like this. So keep asking these questions. The one thing I always get from providers is, if more people want it, we can make it. We just need that demand to equal making it a price point that everyone can afford. So we're not there yet, but the more people that ask the questions, the more people that say it's important, the more people will focus on coming up with more sustainable solutions and more sustainable ways of doing things.
Thank you. Very good job. I appreciate it. I see Francisca and Judy down there. Such an important topic.
Absolutely, Joe. And the purpose, again, we said that before the session started, the beauty of Race Industry Week is we cover every aspect of the industry, every subject, every suppliers, every, race organizer, and every important topics. And this is definitively something that's going to take more and more importance in the years to come. So thank you, Christiana. Thank you, Jessica.
Registering on ePartrade is easy. To start, click on the Join for Free button on the homepage. First, search your company to see if it's already in our database. If you see your company on the list, click on it to select it. Then, choose Claim Company if you are one of the decision makers, an owner, marketing person, or main company contact. Or choose Join Company if you are an employee, and press Continue. If you couldn't find your company in our database, select Register a New Company. On the following page, fill out your name, email, phone number, job title, and choose a secure password. If you chose Register a New Company, you'll need to choose your business type. Select Supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose Racing Business if you're looking to source new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose Race Team if you own or are a member of a professional race team. Then, enter your company name. Please provide a website, Facebook page, or LinkedIn if you have one, and choose to either claim or join the company. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Finally, click Register Now and your registration will be submitted for approval. An email will be sent to your inbox. Please confirm your email address and you will be approved shortly. Welcome to ePartrade.